Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's good on this Sunday morning. Is it morning? Yes, just. So, guys, just I was going to do this video earlier, but last night Sarah dropped off a jet wash, and I didn't realize that I needed a jet wash in my life as much as I did when I first started to use a jet wash. I've just been going on a absolutely crazy cleaning spree outside. What just happened? But anyway, guys, what I want to talk about today is how I feel the UK realistically is heading for a civil war. And then what I'm going to tell you is the simple way that we can avoid this and make everything better. And I'll do that within, the solution will take me under 3 minutes to describe. Anyway, so I watched the advert for this movie. It's an American movie. It's called Civil War or something. I didn't watch the movie, but I can only imagine the context of the movie is something like Republicans, Democrats, county lines, but not state lines, whatever, something like that. But anyway, so I started to think, okay, what would be the conditions for the UK to head towards a civil war? And as soon as I thought that, I looked and I thought, wow, we're actually in them already. So what you've got in the UK now is local elections being won on local councillors' foreign policy. Now, I don't know what, accreditation local councillors have to dictate foreign policy. I don't know, but that's the reality. And guys, I'm not here to tell you how to vote or how not to vote. I'm just pointing out that this is the reality. So what I feel is going to happen in this election in the UK, the 2024 election, is you're going to see a mass, exodus from the two main political parties. So you've got, we've normally had a two-party system. So you either vote Conservatives or you vote Labour. Well, I don't think that's going to happen this year. And what you're going to see is a lot of people voting for other parties, fringe parties, independents, and other groups. Now, with that, what you're going to get then is you're going to get the momentum to then carry that forwards into the next election, so the 2028 election. Now, what you've got to consider is the state of the world that I believe that the world will be in the 2028 election. All you have to do, guys, is look all around the world. The world's, in a very volatile place at the moment. And it kind of reminds me as the world pre-World War One, where everybody knows that, these wars are going to erupt. Everybody knows, everybody's, understands it's going to happen. And we're just waiting for that one, that one Franz Ferdinand moment, that one straw that finally breaks the donkey's back. Look at Ukraine at the moment. It's the east of Ukraine, in my opinion. It could be argued that it's already fallen. They're fighting heavily in and around Kharkiv to try and, obviously the Ukrainians trying to defend Kharkiv. The Russians, I feel, are trying to do a pincer movement, which would then encircle Kharkiv, and then that would just cut it off. You wouldn't need to go into Kharkiv. Once that's happened, there literally is nothing to stop the Russians getting up to the River Dnipro. The River Dnipro, guys, okay, when you're thinking about Ukraine, the River Dnipro is the thing that's going to save Ukraine from being taken, fully. What I will say on that, though, is the Russians did an exercise, I think in the 70s or maybe the 80s, I can't remember. But basically, they went into Kiev and they dug underneath the River Dnipro, and it took them 48 hours to do that. So they had a tunnel underneath the River Dnipro. Now, whether they've got that technology to do that again, I struggle to see that would, I think that was one of those staged things to show the world how technologically advanced the Russians were. But anyway, guys, so that's that area of, conflict. You've got the, the Israel-Gaza conflict, because it's certainly not a war, where at the moment you've got the US condemning Israel for the use of weapons potentially against humanitarian guidelines or whatever it is, international law. I didn't even know that was such a thing. I thought you either sell somebody weapons and then accept, and then just they're theirs then. I didn't think I wasn't under the impression that you could sell somebody a weapon and then tell them where and where not to use it. I don't know. So you've got that at the moment with the Israelis wanting to push hard, the Americans condemning them. So that's I don't know which way that's going to go. You've obviously, the Palestinians are backed by the Iranians. The Iranians are allied with the Russians. And then you've got, the elephant in the room, which is China and their claims to Taiwan, which could happen, any day. I feel this would happen, though, when potentially the US was already committed somewhere else. So if it's going to happen at all, again, China could just be really smart and sit this one out, and then everybody else would use all their finances, all their GDPs, and bankrupt their own countries, and then China's just growing its economy, growing its infrastructure, growing its industrial capacity, and then after all these wars are over, and because no side really wins a war, guys, all right, both sides take heavy losses, and the person who wins is the person who takes the least loss, I guess. But anyway, guys, so they're the conflicts you've got, and the one that I keep putting out there is the Falkland Islands. It's very interesting. Okay, so look at it's fine to look at what people are saying, what these political pundits are saying, what prime ministers are saying, what foreign secretaries are saying. That's fine. Look at what they're actually doing. Argentina have just bought, I think, 22 F-16 fighter planes. Argentina do not need these unless they're planning to, a large bombardment of the Falkland Islands. They do not need these aircraft at all. I feel at some point they will try this because there's too much money to be made in the Falklands from the Falklands. Whoever has claim to the Falklands has claim to Antarctica, and Antarctica is a largely untapped resource. There's not been any fuel, because that's what we're looking for, oil basically. There's no oil exploration being done in Antarctica, although that will be, and as I understand that can happen in like 2040 or something. But anyway, so that's the world as we're set at the moment. I think the two deciding nations will be India and Turkey. In Turkey, they're a part of NATO, but they're also a predominantly Muslim country. So it's going to be interesting what Turkey does and who Turkey supports, who Turkey allies with. Also, India, it's a huge emerging nation. They're looking to, they'll probably overtake China, as the world's largest industrial power at some point, in the next couple of years. So it's going to be very interesting where those two go. But anyway, guys, so that is going to be the setting for the world in the 2028 election. I feel, the world is just going to be. I don't see any way how we can. I don't see any way how the world can avoid World War III by 2028. I actually see it more likely to be at the end of this year, around election time. Anyway, so if you consider the world in flames like it probably will be by 2028, then the people will come to the election and they will look at and they'll look at what happened in the previous election, and what we've just said we're going to see in this election. We're going to see a huge increase in people voting, potentially on foreign policy, on cultural norms, that sort of thing, in the sense that, this guy's not very good, but he's our guy, so that's the guy we have to vote for. And that's all. That's going to be in this election, and then people will gather momentum for the next election, for the 2028 election, and the world will be in flames. We'll have, we could potentially have rationing, there'll be potentially famine in some places in the world. There'll be a shortage of goods in the UK because we're already starting to see that now. Go look at your shelves in your supermarket. Either they're being very, what was it? We went to our, B&M. We went to our B&M and they've been very tactical with their plant pot spacing. Now, guys, I've never seen aisles and aisles of plant pots. Plant pots are big things, And the B&M near us, it just had loads of plant pots on the shelves because they've got nothing else to put on the shelves because they're having problems, obviously, with supply and demand. And other places, they're just hiking the prices up on things things that would usually cost us well, things have doubled basically, you know, swimming pools and stuff like that. I mentioned it yesterday, but you're seeing this now. You're seeing this shipping, all these problems with the shipping. You're seeing it come to loggerheads, because don't forget, once the shipping stops, once the problems start with the shipping, it's going to take a matter of months then for that to catch up, because there's already stuff in storage, there's already stuff supply and demand that's already been bought for, and then once that's all filtered through and gone, you know, then you start getting the problems. So that's already happening now, and this is just going to be emphasized and increase, not emphasized, this is just going to increase for the next, you know, the time the next election comes. So the time the next election comes, 2028, this is more, or 2029, whenever it is, you know, this is just going to be like, you know, it's going to be a lot worse. People are then going to realize that the last election, this one, that these fringe groups got momentum. You know, the fringe groups got momentum. Sorry, my dad. These fringe groups got momentum. The smaller parties got momentum, and people are just going to build on that energy. They're going to build on that, you know, what's the word? The energy and momentum that you get when something's new and something's happening. And the old parties, the, you know, Conservatives and Labour, I feel they're just going to sink further down, and people are just going to lose faith in them. Once the 2028 or 2029 election has happened, you're going to get a hugely fractured Britain. And that then is going to be very divisive, because you're going to get people with so many different opinions, so many different fractured ideas. And, you know, and that's when I feel 2029 to 2030, that's when, you know, we could really, really, really be looking at a civil war in the UK. By, you know, county lines where people are voting and there's different things, all this sort of stuff's going to be happening, because at the backdrop of that 2029 election, you know, we could be in a global conflict. Now, how do we deal with that, and how do we stop it from happening, and how do we make everyone's lives better? Guys, the answer's so simple. And, you know, I always say this, and this is, you know, I'm certainly not there to give this is not financial advice, because if you talk about money or anything online, you've got to say this is not financial advice. And I don't think anybody watching this channel would think this is financial advice. But you've got to understand that, and I think Donald Trump understands this really well. If you don't pay people, they won't do stuff. Likewise, if you pay people, they'll do stuff. So we need to totally change the political system in the UK, whereby you vote for your local politician or whatever, and then I'm a voter, I need to have an active say on whether they get paid. So you pay your council tax every month. Rather than paying your full council tax, you say, right, okay, I don't know, £10 or something of your council tax goes to your local MP if you think they're doing a good job. If you don't, you go on an online portal or something and say, you know what, I'm not paying you this month. Then guess what? We will have politicians who actually work for us. Because at the moment, our political class do not work for us. They get voted, they tell us what they're going to do, they make all these promises, and then they don't do it. Tell me there, where you're sat, if you don't do what you're supposed to at work, what happens? You get the sack. You don't get paid. Our political class at the moment, they make a load of empty promises, get elected, then don't do anything for 4 years. You know, where I live in Rotherham voted for Brexit massively. And then I had to watch our local, you know, our politician, our member of parliament, every vote they had, they voted against Brexit. They voted against, you know, what I voted for. And I was thinking, wow, this is the person who's supposed to be representing Rotherham. Rotherham voted massively, hugely to come out of the European Union, and now our representative in Parliament is voting against us. So what was the point in me voting anyway? We should have just said, right, should have just said to our politician, our local MP, right, what are we allowed to vote for? Because, you know, that really sounds like it. What you have to do. At that time, I had a US investor who wanted to invest in the UK. Heavily invest in the UK, and he was saying, sure, hey Sean, listen man, I need to know what's happening with this Brexit thing, man, because I can't have them change the tax laws. So basically, he wanted to understand what the tax laws were going to be after Brexit. It just took so long for anything to happen. That opportunity is gone. It's not going to happen, And I agree with his decision. He said, I can't invest in the UK at the moment because there's too much uncertainty. So that's the reality of the situation, and the solution is very easy. We need as voters, we need the capacity to not pay our politicians if they don't do what we say. And that's the only way that they're going to do what we tell them. Because, it's all well and good, whoever coming up with loads of charisma and, saying they're going to do X, Y, and Z and then getting their vote and then just not doing anything, which is the reality of what happens at the moment. We need, as a nation, as a country, do you know what? And I'd say this should be on a global scale, the ability to be able to say, hey, do you know what? You're my local MP. You're not doing what I want you to do. I voted for you on X, Y, Z. You're just blatantly lying to us now and you're not doing what you said. Guess what? I'm not going to pay you. Your salary is going to be zero. Then guess what you get? You get a load of politicians who actually do what they say and they start working hard. And that's what we need. We need people who are going to work hard for us. Anyway, guys, that is what I think, and that's my solution. Tell me, do you think that solution would work, or do you think it's just total codswater? Guys, I understand this has been a little bit of a long one, so thank you for following, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be doing more videos later on today. Thank you.